Have you ever wondered why most tech giants claim they started in a garage to help humanity, when in reality, they were born out of pure personal frustration? Nick Woodman didn't set out to build a multi-billion-dollar empire. He just wanted to look cool while surfing, and he couldn't. In 2002, while traveling through Australia and Indonesia, Woodman realized that if you weren't a professional with a dedicated film crew, capturing high-quality action shots was literally impossible. You had to strap a disposable camera to your wrist with rubber bands and hope for the best. Most people would have just complained about the blurry photos, but Woodman was coming off the back of a failed dot-com startup called Funbug, and he had something to prove. He wasn't just looking for a camera, he was looking for redemption. He spent 5 months living in a Volkswagen bus, selling bead and shell belts to raise the initial capital. It wasn't a high-tech lab, it was a sewing machine and a dream. This wasn't about the megapixels or the sensor size, it was about the perspective. The world was about to see itself from the inside out, and the traditional camera industry never saw it coming. This is the story of GoPro. The first GoPro wasn't the high-definition digital powerhouse we know today. In fact, it wasn't even digital. Released in 2004, the GoPro Hero was a 35mm film camera that used rolls of Kodak film. Imagine that for a second. You're surfing a massive wave, and you only have 24 shots before you have to swim back to shore. Woodman was the ultimate one-man show. He was the engineer, the patent lawyer, the salesman, and the hand model. He spent years obsessing over the Hero strap, the wrist mount that allowed the camera to stay attached during high-impact sports. He knew that the magic wasn't the camera itself, but the point of view. By 2005, his company, Woodman Labs, started seeing real traction. He was selling to surf shops and specialty sports stores, often out of the back of his car. While the tech giants in Silicon Valley were focusing on bigger screens and better zooms, Woodman was focusing on durability and clippability. He was building a tool that didn't just record a memory, it recorded an adrenaline rush. The transition to digital in 2006 changed everything, and suddenly, the little camera that could was about to become a global phenomenon. In the mid-2000s, two revolutions collided to create a perfect storm. The first was GoPro going digital, and the second was the birth of YouTube. Before GoPro, if you told someone you went skydiving, they had to take your word for it. After GoPro, you could show them the wind pulling at your face from 6,000 feet in the air. This was the great democratization of cinematography. You didn't need a $10,000 rig to be a filmmaker anymore. You just needed a $300 box and some courage. The marketing strategy was genius because Woodman didn't actually have to pay for it. His customers were his best advertisers. Every time a professional athlete or a weekend warrior uploaded a point-of-view video to the internet with that distinctive fisheye lens, the GoPro brand grew exponentially. By 2010, the Hero HD was released, bringing 1080p video to the palm of your hand. Revenue started doubling every single year. It wasn't just a gadget, it was a status symbol for the brave. If you had a GoPro on your helmet, it meant you were doing something worth watching. The company was no longer just a hardware manufacturer, it was a media powerhouse in the making. By June of 2014, GoPro was the hottest name in tech. They went public on the NASDAQ, and the results were staggering. The stock price soared more than 30% on the first day, valuing the company at nearly $3 billion. Nick Woodman, the guy who was selling shell belts from a van just a decade earlier, was now a billionaire. The world was obsessed. GoPro wasn't just competing with Sony or Canon, they had carved out an entirely new category that they owned 100%. Investors saw GoPro as more than a camera company, they saw it as a media platform. They imagined a world where GoPro would host the world's most exciting content, competing with the likes of Red Bull or even Netflix. Money was pouring in, and the company started hiring at a frantic pace. But this moment of maximum triumph also contained the seeds of its future struggles. When you are at the top of the mountain, there is only one way left to go. The pressure to innovate every single year for Wall Street is very different from the pressure to innovate for a group of surfers. The Hero was now a public commodity, and the expectations were becoming impossible to meet. Every great empire eventually overreaches. And for GoPro, that moment was called karma. By 2016, the smartphone in your pocket was becoming good enough for most people. GoPro needed a new frontier, and they decided to take to the skies. They announced the Karma drone, a foldable, sleek, and sexy flying machine. It was supposed to be the DJI killer, but the launch was a disaster of epic proportions. Shortly after release, reports started flooding in of drones literally falling out of the sky. The batteries were losing connection mid-flight, turning expensive gadgets into falling bricks. GoPro had to issue a massive recall of 2,500 units. It wasn't just a financial blow, it was a brand catastrophe. While they were fixed on the sky, a Chinese company called DJI was perfecting the tech and moving faster. At the same time, GoPro was trying to build an ambitious media division, spending millions on original content that nobody was watching. They had lost their focus. They were trying to be everything to everyone, and in the process, they were losing the core users who built them. The stock price, which had once peaked at almost $100, began a painful, multi-year slide toward the bottom. The years 2017 through 2019 were a period of brutal reckoning. GoPro had to undergo massive layoffs, shutting down its entertainment division and exiting the drone market entirely. Nick Woodman even famously reduced his own salary to $1 to help the company survive. They had to get back to basics. The realization was simple. They couldn't just sell a camera once every 3 years and expect to grow forever. They needed a recurring relationship with their users. This led to the GoPro subscription model. Instead of just hardware, they offered cloud storage, insurance, and premium editing tools. It worked. By 2022, they had nearly 2 million subscribers. They also simplified their product lineup, focusing on making the Hero series more stable, more waterproof, and more user-friendly with hypersmooth stabilization. They stopped trying to be a film studio and went back to being the world's best tool for capturing the moment. It wasn't as flashy as the IPO days, but it was sustainable. The company shifted from a growth-at-all-costs mindset to a profitability mindset. They learned that being a niche king is better than being a mass-market failure. So, what is the legacy of GoPro? Today, the company exists in a world where every phone is a high-end camera. But if you're jumping out of a plane, or scuba diving in a coral reef, or mountain biking down a jagged cliff, you aren't reaching for your iPhone. You're reaching for a GoPro. The company's journey is a masterclass in the innovator's dilemma. They created a market, dominated it, almost destroyed themselves by trying to leave it, and finally found peace by returning to it. The business lesson here is clear. Your brand isn't what you sell, it's the problem you solve. GoPro doesn't sell cameras, it sells bravery and vulnerability in high definition. They proved that a physical product can still create a massive community in a software-driven world. Despite the stock market volatility and the failed projects, Nick Woodman's vision held true. He gave us a way to see the world through the eyes of the adventurer. And while they may no longer be the Silicon Valley darling they once were, GoPro remains the gold standard for action. Because at the end of the day, no matter how good phone cameras get, they will never be hero enough to take the hits that a GoPro can. I hope this deep dive gave you a new perspective on the strategies and the relentless mindset behind these global icons. If you enjoy deconstructing business empires and tech legends in this Tech Archive style, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications. That way, you will never miss a new blueprint of history. For those of you ready to explore more boardroom coups and technological breakthroughs, I have handpicked 2 videos for you right here on the screen. Click one to keep watching. I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.